Could you imagine being chosen by the most powerful person who ever walked this earth and still failing him? Not once, not twice, 3 times, in the same night. This is the story of a man who was rough, impulsive, deeply flawed, and somehow became the foundation of a movement that would outlast empires. His name was Simon, but Jesus looked at him and called him something else. He called him Rock. Simon Peter grew up working the waters of the Sea of Galilee, likely from Bethsaida before later living in Capernaum. He was not a scholar, not a priest, not a man of letters or lineage. He was a fisherman. He knew the weight of empty nets, the sting of cold water before sunrise, the silence of a long night that produced nothing. Scripture tells us he was married because Jesus later healed his mother-in-law. That means Peter had responsibilities, a household, a life already built around the sea. He wasn't searching for a calling, he was trying to make a living. But the sea had shaped him too. Peter was intense, loud, passionate, the kind of man who speaks before he thinks, the kind of man who moves before he plans. History might call that recklessness. Jesus called it potential. It had been a long night, exhausting, the kind that makes a man question his trade. Peter and his crew had fished for hours and caught nothing. They were cleaning their nets on shore when Jesus stepped near. The crowd pressed in so closely that Jesus entered Peter's boat. He asked Peter to push out a little from shore. Peter obliged, probably too tired to argue. Then Jesus said something that made no practical sense. "Put out into deep water and let down your nets again." Peter had every reason to refuse, but he answered, "Master, we worked all night and caught nothing, but because you say so, I will let down the nets." And the nets filled. So fast, so heavy. The boats began to sink. Other fishermen rushed to help. Peter fell to his knees. "Go away from me, Lord, I am a sinful man." But Jesus said, "Do not be afraid. From now on, you will fish for people." And Peter left everything to follow him. Peter's time with Jesus was extraordinary and turbulent. He watched storms obey a command. He watched the blind receive sight. He watched the dead rise. And once, Peter stepped out of a boat onto open water. For one moment, faith carried him. Then fear took hold. He saw the wind, he felt the waves, and he began to sink. Many remember that Peter sank, but forget this: he was the only one who stepped out. Peter's struggle was the gap between who he wanted to be and who he became when fear arrived. Peter once swore he would never abandon Jesus. But on the night Jesus was arrested, fear took hold. He followed at a distance, close enough to watch, too afraid to be known. Then a servant girl looked at him by the firelight. "You were with him too?" Peter answered, "I don't know what you mean." A second accusation, another denial, a third, another denial. Then a rooster crowed, and Scripture says Jesus turned and looked at Peter. Imagine that moment. Peter went outside and wept bitterly, the loudest disciple, broken in the dark. But failure was not Peter's ending. After the resurrection, Jesus met Peter again, beside a charcoal fire, the same kind of fire Peter once stood beside in shame. 3 times Jesus asked, "Do you love me?" 3 times Peter answered, and 3 times Jesus restored what fear had broken. "Feed my sheep, care for my people, lead again." The man who denied in darkness would soon preach in daylight before thousands. The fisherman became a foundation. The man who sank learned how to stand. Peter was loud, impulsive, proud enough to make promises he could not keep, and broken enough to weep when he failed. Yet Jesus chose him anyway, restored him anyway, built through him anyway. Because many of us are Peter, tired after long nights of catching nothing, carrying words we wish we could take back, wondering if failure has disqualified us. But maybe the question is not, am I good enough? Maybe the question is, am I willing? Peter was willing, even afraid, even flawed, even uncertain. And that willingness changed the world. If you were standing on that shore, would you have gone too? This is Word in Motion, where we step inside the lives of the people Scripture never forgot. Next episode, Judas Iscariot, one of history's most haunting decisions, a story of betrayal, guilt, and a question that still echoes. What drives a person to cross a line they can never uncross? Subscribe now and walk with us into the next story.